Welcome to the Greatness Garage Podcast, the place where small businesses get big answers. I'm your host, Brad Borkus, founder of Epitome Coaching and Consulting, and this is the Greatness Garage. Welcome, everyone, back to the Greatness Garage. We're so happy to have you here and so happy that you get a chance to work on your business, not just in it. Today, I am blessed with Dr. Matt Hanson here. He's going to bring a wealth of knowledge and just some great stories, and I'm really looking forward to this. So, Dr. Matt, welcome to the garage, and we're so happy to have you.
Thanks. I'm in my actual garage, actually.
I
My
love the theming. I
brain
love
is
it.
working up. Yeah. So I am going to be dodging some flies here and there. So don't worry about that.
That's awesome.
And I'm sorry, you wanted me to tell you about myself? Is that what you said?
Yeah, just kind of give an introduction. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're working on and some of the fun that's showing up in your world.
I am a chiropractor. I practice in Minot, North Dakota, which is north central North Dakota. And I graduated chiro school in 2009. Been working pretty steadily ever since. Opened my own practice right away um, out of chiro school. Got my butt kicked a little bit there. Then I started working for another chiropractor in Minot here due to some family things, and ended up buying that practice and more than doubled the revenue of it in the last 5, 6 years. Um, to the point where it's one of the probably top 2, 3% of clinics in the country, which is pretty cool. I'm the
Yeah.
father of soon to be 15-year-old, and I've got a better half that keeps me very much in line. Enjoy spending time with that as much as I can, and I always am thinking and generating ideas. Try to get as many creative outlets as I can because I'm pretty busy with business and practice. I'm a founder of two different tech startups that we're currently working on. One's called Vivora Life, which ultimately is going to be bringing functional medicine to people's homes, removing the barriers of getting in and seeing a functional medicine practitioner. Currently, we are starting with just one condition, which is type 2 diabetes, with a goal of getting people's blood work within non-diabetic numbers. Type 2 diabetic patients in non-diabetic numbers within 90 days. And then also a small startup that we're just getting going to called Hone It, which is involved in, as far as I know, the only staff training software that's out there. So pretty
Very
exciting stuff.
cool.
Anything I can do to help humanity or solve problems, I'm always very interested in that.
That's amazing. I mean, there's something about the purpose of doing good and kind of making better, huh? That's pretty cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So, looking at the experience, and I love all the stuff that just the roundedness of stuff that you're doing, and really an impressive resume there. And so, I'm going to be excited to hear this. So, as we go through the first segment, we always call it, I wish I would have, and it's I wish I would have done, I wish I would have not done, I wish I would have chose differently, I wish I would have done more of. It's always just a great opening one to see kind of what shows up. So, give it to us, Dr. Matt. I wish I would have.
Oh yeah. So I graduated school in '09 and right out of school started a practice. Wrong place, wrong time, no experience. It's 2009, right when the recession hit Minneapolis, where I opened my practice, very, very hard, especially the area I was in. Geographically, it was a bad place in terms of just in Twin Cities geography. If you're going to travel to a place that should be within 5 minutes off of a interstate or a main road, this was 20
Mhm.
or 30 minutes to get to from a sort of uh, really
Large thoroughfare.
traffic artery. Yeah. Uh,
Hmm.
and so it was a struggle, so you start, with zero patients and you build from there. So in that sense, I really wish I would have taken some time and found out the practice they ultimately wanted to do and work for somebody that was already doing that,
Hmm.
learn from them, and then do my research a little bit more on where to open and when. Um, so I really think I would have gotten a lot of value out of working for somebody that was already doing what I intended to do, um, because that experience is invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you say that, and it's just the ability to sit there and watch somebody do it and to be paid while they're making their mistakes and you're learning yours. I think that's,
Yeah,
it's one of
yeah,
those
and
things
it's
like,
not,
yeah.
it's like you think it's the big broad things you need to know and
Yeah.
get done, but it's really you do need those, and I had those, but I didn't know the little things because it's about the in life too. We think it's like what school we choose to go to and what house we buy, what car we buy, our partner. Those are very, very important things. But what actually defines who we are is the hundreds of small choices you make that you don't
Hmm.
think about during
Hmm.
the day. And the same is true in business too. It's the little subtle things that add up exponentially over time and make the biggest difference. So
Well,
that's just somebody that's got the smoke battle, and it's like that extra like 5 or 10%, right? And
hmm
that's
hmm
really sharpens the knife and makes you successful. And I definitely didn't have that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like what it made me think of is the saying that says, "I've forgotten more than you even know," type of thing, right? And if there's a lot of points now where we go, that's true. That's
Yeah.
really true. That it's amazing how much stuff that you go through and these different things that they transition. And it's interesting because I remember like when I worked in a family with my father, and I always said that our relationship really changed when I went from asking him, why did you do that to why did you do that? And
Mhm.
that all the lessons that are available from people who are doing something like you, and you said too, not only would you have been able to been in a practice to learn in a style and the practice that you wanted to run, but then also at that same time confirming that this is the style of practice that you want to run. What a better way to go nope than when it's somebody else's problem, somebody else's
That
practice,
that
so
would have been the case. Yeah.
yeah.
This is a disease that a lot of young, probably chiropractors, mostly dentists, but a lot of medical professionals that don't have a big hospital system to go into. So they have to go out on their own. It's a disease a lot of them have, which is like, oh, I'm going to show all you old guys how this is actually done. Right.
Yep.
And it would
Yep.
have been the case actually if I'd have worked for somebody that had the practice that I thought I wanted. I would have realized I didn't want it.
Yeah.
I wanted something a bit different, which is ultimately what my practice is morphed into. And I should say too, I want to give credit to my business partner, Dr. Spielhaber. So part of me building this, more than doubling the size of the practice in the years I've owned it is that I've had a great business partner too, and that's a pretty good key. Find somebody that that has massive strengths where you have your massive weaknesses. So you got to
Yeah.
recognize that about yourself and then recognize that in somebody else too.
Yeah, right? You would go through that, you even tying it back to the initial decision where you'd have been able to explore more of those weaknesses and then have that confidence to be with them. I think when you're young, we try to hide our insecurities and our lack of abilities, and we
Hmm.
just try to over exaggerate other things instead of saying, like I think you're right, and as I know the two of you guys as the partners, one of the really good things you do is you guys have very good defined lanes, and there's a ways there's each values that's brought into, and you can kind of respect that other side of the fence that says, hey, they do a really good job, and I kind of leave that for them to do it. If it comes questions, then we come to the middle of the fence, right? And I think in partnership, it's such a difficult thing to really create good partnerships because people want to creep over the other side of the line. And when that happens, then distrust gets bred and then all these problems happen. And yeah,
That
so
happens. Yeah. And people are like, oh, I want to go into business with my friend. Well, I mean, sure. But if your friend is like, 99% the same as you, which they generally probably are since you're friends and relate to a lot. Uh, if you guys are almost identical personality wise, gift wise, there's one too many of you.
you're
you
asking
know,
for trouble. Yeah, well
it's the
said.
old
You're
saying.
redundant. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So it's the old saying of if there's two people and they share one opinion, there's an extra person there. Um,
It's that's a great one, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is the greatness garagers here are listening to this too. This is a chance to reflect in your own space. And there's a multitude of things you can do about that. right? It doesn't mean, oh, our partnership's over, no longer is going to work. But you can learn from that and grow into some modification of it.
Hmm.
Some understanding that says, you know what, based on this, I think I need to focus on these part of my skill set or whatever like that, or let's start to redefine where that very fine line sometimes is. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Yep. Yep. And it works great when you know, the sum is more than the parts, right?
yeah,
So, you realize, oh, okay, I'm gone further than I could have on my own because of
yeah,
the tools and skills that this person brings into the partnership.
yeah.
Um,
And I want to ask a question though. So you said something really cool. So like as we step into this, right, and we say,
mhm.
I wish I wouldn't have stepped in. Looking back with all the wisdom and 2020 hindsight we have, why do you think you did? Why do you think you went
I,
that path?
I,
Yeah, why
I
did you?
was
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, super passionate about it and thought I knew more than everybody else. I also didn't, I honestly didn't look very hard, but I didn't see that ideal practice that I wanted,
yeah, yeah,
where I wanted to be. And then I really liked where I lived, which is where I opened the practice, which was that kind of isolated community,
yeah,
um, which was great for my quality of life, was not great for business.
yeah,
But yeah, why did I do it? Because I really honestly couldn't not have.
yeah,
I was just so excited and passionate about getting going.
yeah. What a cool, unfortunate problem, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
And you know what? And I will say this too, probably, for those of you who have gone down this path or going down this path, I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, but the passion that you had is what held you on to transition out of that challenging, business experience to do it again, to get up,
Oh
dust
yeah,
yourself
yeah.
off and do it again.
I've always funny little quirk of mine, but um, when there's that saying 9 out of 10 businesses fail.
Hmm.
Um, and when I heard that, I was like, I only got to try 10 times, and I'm gonna hit it.
I
Um,
like it. Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
Okay, yeah,
It's
and then
math. It's math. We can do this. Yep.
exactly. Then you're like, oh, I failed, fail fast, right? And then you try again.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah. It's while it's fun, you wish you wouldn't have, and then there's like I said, there's always those great lessons that come from it.
Sure.
So
No, I
and
did get
and
my
I
butt
think
kicked. I mean, it led to a lot of, it major contributor to a divorce. Had to
hmm
relocate, to be able to be in my son's life. It
yeah.
was precipitated probably the hardest chapter of my life so far. Um, yeah, there's definitely blessings on the other side, but I will say, um, though the regrets are small, that time it's a lie to say it wasn't quite painful, and it was
hmm
some of those
hmm
decisions made from that ambition.
That's
Um,
that's kind of why we call it I wish, right? I wish I would, because it is you change those things and it's interesting too. I think you said something that was really revealing, and I think for everyone to kind of understand this, I see myself go through this time and time and time again, and now I get a more chuckle when I do it. But it's interesting when you read a new book or you learn a new something and it resonates and it's deep. There is this overwhelmingness that shows up that somebody's like, "Oh my God, I see it so clearly. I must be the most clairvoyant person in the world. I mean, I've got this by the tail," and not realizing that there's a couple hundred people who had it by the tail as well, and it doesn't work. The implementation might not be the same as the illusion that shows up for it. And so, like when you get passionate, that dose of reality that manages between. You don't want to put yourself down and just drub out the passion, but you got to kind of balance it with each of that, huh?
well, yeah, I consider myself fortunate. I like have a brain that's hard to shut off. It's just like an idea generator.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of good ones. Probably not as many as I think there are, but there are some good ones.
Yep.
And it's 100%, even though I love these ideas like they're my children, I, write them down and I work through, 15 years in the future with them
Yep.
and I think about them 24/7. Um, they're awesome. I'm a big idea fan, but they're only as good as their execution.
Yep.
Only as good as
Oh, well,
being
so yeah. Yep.
executed. correctly. It's just, otherwise it is just an idea. So idea plus action equals results, idea plus idea plus idea plus idea plus idea. It's a
Yeah,
big empty,
becomes a dreamer,
it
you
becomes
know?
an empty hand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But and you know what? It's so cool that and I'm guessing in your transition and your progress in this kind of process, it used to be you sat with the idea and the wow of it, and now I'm guessing your transition to like how do I implement that becomes then you can kind of let the dream kind of go back on the shelf for a while and simmer and not have
Yeah.
to hold it if you're going, I can't see this in implementation. Got to go back for right now, so
Yeah, you put stuff in the back burner for sure. One thing though that comes to mind whenever I do, come up with a brainstorm or an idea is pretty immediately afterwards you start looking at your resources, not in terms of money or materials, but in terms of people, right?
cool. Yeah.
Um, and so if you can put an idea together and then get the right people together with that idea, then you've got serious potential.
Yeah.
And so it
Well
is
said.
having, that network is invaluable. And I'm saying that where I'm not the greatest at growing networks. I don't like to socialize too much.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not, a member of any organizations necessarily. I think those are good things. I think people should do them, but I choose to spend my time with my family and working on other things and staying busy in other ways. But through the small network I've grown, I can tell you that nothing that I've no place that I've come to thus far would have been possible without that network.
Yeah.
Small as
But you're right. And it's interesting too. There was a gentleman, Rick Sapio, may he rest in peace here. He was actually really pivotal in the chiropractic industry and helping some business people, get them to understand business. But one of the things he did is he had done years ago an interview of a book with billionaires, and in that thing he found that like the difference between a millionaire typically had a really good idea, and a billionaire wouldn't even touch the good idea until he had the right person to run the good
Mhm.
idea. And
Yeah.
it is, and I think that's the thing is we leverage our ability to see things and have vision is if we don't put that right person in the place, it really, even if it's a really great idea, and even if we have a lot of the like you said, the other resources, the financial, the other stuff, if they don't have that right person, now you're going to ask yourself to be in two places at once. It just doesn't work,
Doesn't work.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Mhm.
Very cool. Well, that was such a great start to it. Thank you so much for that insight, and really, I think we all gained a lot from that. And this is the purpose of the garage. So,
Great.
the next one is I can't wait to hear it. It's just a funny. It's how we step into this. Life happens, and the name of this segment is "You Aren't Gonna Believe This," and it's just us sharing these stories that we experience life and business, and it is happens, and we're not alone with the craziness. And so, Dr. Matt, take us on a journey for this story.
This is actually it's one of those things like careful what you wish for, I guess. Um, because starting practice then with my then wife and newborn, and we were struggling to get patients in, bending over backwards marketing, um, working. And I got an opportunity to do a talk at a church, and it was a group of moms. Um, and I'm not naturally an extrovert. And so I've found that I love talking, I love lecturing, I love teaching, as I think what I like doing the most. But I've always been very afraid of public speaking. I remember in English class in high school, I had to give a 3-minute talk on cross country skiing, and I think I put nail marks in the podium, stood there, and it felt like about that 3 minutes felt like about 16 hours.
Right.
And then so now I'm giving this talk and was a little bit nervous in those ways, but I had so much passion and information to share with them. Not only what I've learned in 10 semesters of school in chiropractic school, but what I've learned in pretty much every evening and every weekend that I've done additional studying, listening to I had all this information to share. I did get some really good advice from one of my patients and a friend who was fairly she was good at public speaking, was actually teaching courses and taking courses on it, which was they don't want to know as much as you want to tell them. So I took that to heart and put together about a 45-minute talk, 80 moms. And at the end of it, I ended up with 108 patients.
Wow.
Because all,
Nice job.
pretty much virtually the whole room signed up for themselves, and a lot of them signed up their kids and their spouses and things like that. And so back then, in chiropractic, new patients are the lifeblood of any new practice or any practice,
Hmm.
period. But when you're young and proving yourself, there is no such thing as word of mouth because you've only been around for like 6, 12 months.
Yeah.
So there's very little of it. And so anyway, this was just like more than I could have dreamed about. We were doing backflips and lighting our hair on fire to get, 10, 15 new patients in a month.
Yeah.
And now we got 108, which was great. One funny story from that is, so I gave this talk and it was on nutrition and God and the nervous system and chiropractic. And it was, it went over well. But it was all about health and being natural and things like that. And like I said, I'm naturally an introvert, so I love giving these talks. But afterwards, it feels like literally like my body feels like I ran a marathon.
Oh,
Like my
yeah.
kidneys hurt. I just feel like the energy that somebody takes a vacuum and sticks it in my brain and sucks all the energy out. And so we went to a liquor store not too far from the church, which is pretty close to where we were living. And I got some gluten-free beer because we are gonna have a good dinner, and I was gonna try to recover. And one of the moms was in there, and she came up to us, and she was like, "Thank God you drink beer." Like I was hiding from you. I saw you in the liquor store. She's like, "No, I still good." Like, yeah, I'm a human too. Um,
Now 109. You won the extra
yeah,
patient.
exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so then it was so awesome. We got 108 new patients. This is going to be great for us. But then I had to try to process those 108 new patients in the
Hmm.
next 30 to 40 days because you don't want to let, your leads and people excited about it get cold. And so it
Yeah.
was, from 10 to 15 new patients a month, which is not great, but it was the best we could do. And we were trying really hard to, 10 to 15 a day. And, back then because my confidence was so low,
Yeah.
my information I was giving him was very high. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
now my report is just telling them what I found and what they need. That back then it
Yeah.
was convincing them about, the birth of the universe all the way up to, uh,
Right.
the invention of the light bulb or something. And it took me 45 minutes to go through this, and I was doing all these different things. And I just remember standing in my kitchen about, probably 3, 4 weeks into this and just like my son, who was maybe 1 or 2 at the time, was crying, and I was just standing there staring at the wall. And I didn't intend to be standing. I didn't intend to be taking a
Right.
break. So my brain shut off, and I was just like burnt out
Yeah.
and
It disconnected, huh?
disconnected. Yeah, and that was being passionate. I couldn't wait to get out there, get my hands on people, make humanity better, make people healthier, give them a natural way to health. And then I get into it, and I'm like, holy cow. So that was the first time I ever really experienced burnout, was from
Mhm.
um, something that I always thought I wanted. And
Yep.
to 2 degrees it is, but uh, the cool things about that story for me are one, being able to get that many new customers from one talk,
Yep.
pretty awesome. But then two, the surprise of like, okay, now we got the pain of growth versus the pain of
Hmm.
survival.
Yeah, and it's it's funny. It reminds me there's an ad out there that has this kind of newfound company, and they're all kind of stand like in the kind of warehousey thing, like they're using their offices, the warehouse, and you can see in the background, and there's probably four of them standing around, and they're watching, and they went go live on the website, and the website goes live, and like bink, and they're like oh a sale, and then bink bink, and they're like oh a sale, and all of a sudden like this, and the one guy standing there just boom tips over and just falls. So it's like yeah, it's like it is. It's and the overwhelmingness, and I know too, just from just experience with chiropractic, in those first couple of years, your notes and all that stuff take an elongated amount of time as well. So I can
Mm.
imagine that not only was each session taking 45 minutes, the amount of time you spent on notes late into the night was probably plus a 1 or 2 year old. Like, oh, my
Hmm.
heart feels for you, brother. Like, because
It
I
was,
can
it
feel
was
that
tough,
thing, you
yeah.
know.
And it is, you're right. That's a good point. It's a lot like driving, right?
Yep.
And that's a lot like practice. So those people I was giving care to at that point were getting very good care. Now, if they
Yeah.
came now, it'd be a little bit better care, but a lot more efficient, right? So
Yeah.
when you first learning to drive, you're 10 and 2, you're straight ahead, you're everything.
Yep.
And then, when you've been driving for 20 years, you got one hand on the wheel, you're checking
Yep.
your phone, but you're, turning the radio, you're probably eating your breakfast. You're still getting to the same place, but
Yep.
one's a little more efficient.
Well, exactly, it's so funny too because it is the you're checking. You think about that driving analogy. You're checking signals. You're checking this all stuff, and it's the stuff that you're able to. There's a little bit of a need to be in through that birthing of fire to be able to really get you to kind of break through those habits and then kind of go, okay, this is what I need and this is what I can put down. I don't need to carry all this
Mhm.
stuff with me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
oh my God. Wait, and it's funny too. Like you said that just um that unbelievableness of the explosion of what's possible. And then, like you said too, and interesting, that you say that because I've listened to you before and to hit 100 people in a talk, you've done several times. And so it's funny that now it's like, oh, that was a good talk, versus,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a saying that where you were at today is where your old you dreams it could have been, right? So the
Mhm.
problems you have today, and so what a cool change on that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Yeah, I get that 100%, and it's interesting too as we go through these things that we just don't expect. And it's interesting in business around that next corner can be something unbelievably good and unbelievably bad. And I think, the fact that you get hit with it doesn't make you bad, doesn't make you a bad business person, doesn't make you, a poor decision maker. That stuff shows up. And then where you get a chance is to take your breath and say, okay, what do I want to do about it? Right. And put yourself back into that ownership position. Yeah.
The most true thing I've read on the internet in a number of decades, probably, was a funny meme I saw, which it said entrepreneur's bank account, and it said Monday $-8,000, Wednesday $942,000, Friday $1.34.
Yeah. It's a wild ride. Yeah. It's a definite wild ride,
And that's so true. I mean, people don't realize, it's funny to me, coming from this is kind of a new world entrepreneurship, that kind of thing for me. Um, so people see, they know how much your customers know how much they're paying you. They can see how many people
Mm-hmm.
are waiting. Your staff can see how much you're collecting, but none of those
Yep.
people see how far that dollar has to stretch before it ends up in your pocket. And if you're very,
Yep.
very lucky and very, very good at what you do, maybe 20 to 30 cents does. That's like
Yep.
optimal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times by the time it gets to your pocket, once the staff is paid, the lights are paid, the mortgage is paid, blah, 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 there's, 0 cents left. And that's not the
Yep.
worst point. If
Yep.
it if it gets from the customer to your pocket at 0 cents, that's not the worst. The worst is when it takes, $1.45 to get
Yep.
that dollar to your pocket.
Yep.
And you got to
Yep.
try to reach in the other pocket and figure out if you
Right.
get 55 cents
Right.
to balance out the shortcoming.
And you know what? And I think that's the thing too is, we've all kind of been in those places where, especially in that growth phase that you're trying to do the things that it's not uncommon. And I think the most difficult thing I found about growth phase is that you don't know. You don't know how long that's going to take. They say if you can find profitability in 3 years,
Hmm.
and what does that look like? Or if what if it takes five? And am I chasing the wrong thing? And there's a saying that it says if you're going through hell, keep on going.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the same thing. The person that ended up stuck in hell,
Yeah.
that just so it's really difficult. And I thought there was another funny story one time that said. Doing something brave or doing something courageous or doing something brave and doing something stupid look a lot the same. And that's what makes life difficult, and that's the,
Yep. They sure do.
yeah, right. Because it is, you look at this and you say, oh my God, Jeff Bezos they built this amazing business and for years they were losing a ton of money. What a genius! How
Yeah.
brilliant to be able to do something like that. And you look at the other person, go, they were losing a lot of money, and they now don't have a house,
Yeah.
and it's just
Mhm.
both
Yeah.
can be possible, and so
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's what a great story. You just of the reality there, and I appreciate that share. And so then our final segment is aligned language. What are the words, the quotes, the mantras, the remembers, the things on the wall, the thing in your wallet that you carry around that really help you create either a foundation or lead you through darkness or kind of keep you in the place of understanding this is how I do what I do. So, what's your aligned language that you would love to share with us?
Well, first of all, for those tuning in, I do have a bunch of flies in here, so I'm not going crazy. I've got three.
All
Um,
right.
uh, because and I use them at different times. Um, One is that the best gift that you can give to the world and humanity is to make the most of yourself. Uh,
Mm,
and so that, motivates me. It
yeah.
helps to stay disciplined. Um, because, especially with all the stuff going on in the world, like, Middle East and in
Yeah.
Europe now, the war's going on, the economy, half the country hating half the other country, that kind of stuff. What's the best thing you can do about all that? Make yourself the best person possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do about that. And you're able once you accomplish close or once you're on your way to accomplishing that, even once you get yourself out of uh, a burden on society, you can start to
Yeah.
give to society. Um, so yeah, that's pretty motivating to me.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the next one is goes along with that, especially with everything that's going on in the world, which is that the world is absolutely perfect. It's just incomplete, right?
Yeah.
So the first statement is that it's perfect, right? You can stop right there. That's
Hmm.
fine. But then somebody's like, well, what about the more, sorry about the flies. What about the wars in the Middle East? What about
Yeah.
people starving in Gaza? What about this or that or the other thing? Well, it's incomplete, right? It's
Yeah.
perfect, incomplete. Those things are necessary right now. They ultimately won't be. But
Yeah.
the world was made perfect, designed perfect, and it's on its way to becoming perfect. It's
What
just
it's supposed to
not
be.
there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As are we, right? Yeah. And
Mhm.
I love that you share that. And I think it's that process um, that allows us a space of self-forgiveness and self-grace in this pathway, in this really kind of, let's say, beautiful, beautiful pathway of of just growing and I love that you said it's not complete. And I think you said too, as we're growing and we're trying to take care of ourselves, that's a lifelong long burden. And
Mhm.
that's a life and a beautiful burden to carry. And I think, as you look and you start reflecting on yourself and seeing them opportunities, um, I really like the energy that I feel that's carrying that somebody can just say, I'm on my way.
Mhm.
Wherever you're at, you're on your way. And I think you said too, right? There's this perfect, beautiful, intelligent design that is out there. And I think, in my opinion, God put us on this earth to experience all of our imperfectness so that it allows us to grow. There was a person one time who said something about us breaking down. The purpose on earth is for us to lose, to continually lose, to expand empathy. Like you
Mhm.
can't, until
Mhm.
you lose a parent, you can't really truly understand what it means for somebody else to empathize in the way that they lost a parent. And so the ability to grow through that, I see so much of what you're saying there. And this hurt that we go through is actually a part of our process of us getting complete. So
It is.
yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
that's cool. I like
And
that.
in that, that politician you hate, they're meant to be here as much as the politician
Yeah.
you love. That
Yep.
actor you hate is here meant to be here as much as the actor you love.
Yep.
It's
There's a lesson in there for you. Yeah.
it's harder
Yep.
to see the suffering in the world. It's part of the world becoming complete and becoming perfect.
Hmm.
So that's two of them.
I like
And then the third one is not as uplifting, but I've had to really rely on it. And it has gotten me through probably three or four times where my back has absolutely been against the wall. Um, and unfortunately, I haven't retired yet. I used it not too long ago, and hopefully I won't have to use it as much or if at all in the future. But it's that my mantra in those very, very, very difficult times are one, failure is not an option. And two, I'm never going to quit. Right. So,
Mm,
um, failure is there's nothing wrong with it. Just when I'm in
yeah.
those situations, I'm like, it's okay. It exists, but it's not an option in this situation. So let's figure out how to get ourselves out of this. And then I'm not going to quit just means that like
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up on this. So if I'm not going to
Yeah.
give up on this, it's going to be solved one way or another. So.
I love that. And too, like, and correct me if, in that space, because like a lot of times what I say, I separate fail and failure from two
Mm-hmm.
different things, right? Like you can fail along the
Yep.
way, but
Mm-hmm.
don't give up to that ultimate failure, right?
Yep.
Is that
Yep.
what yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure. Yeah, there's you can lose battles and win the war, you know.
yeah, 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 yep.
And that came to me in chiropractic school, which was, it was pretty difficult, a challenging curriculum for me.
Yeah.
And I just had this massive plan, and it would have affected my timeline. I go into some test feeling unprepared, and I'd just be like, you know what, feeling this isn't an option, so I'm
Yeah.
just not going to do that.
Uh,
It
interesting. Well,
worked.
and part of it too is they say that the most dangerous space in the world is the 6 inches between our ears. And it
Hmm.
can be a battleground. And I love how you kind of choose to say, and really what you're saying is a kind of to a saying I love is devil, not today. Right?
Yep.
You're saying like, hey, this failure is not something option to come into this mindset right now, and we will deal with everything. And and I honestly I think there is something gently beautiful about I'm just not gonna give up.
Yep.
That like that steadiness that just says it can come and we can face it, but yeah, I'm not gonna give up. That's pretty
Not-
cool.
I'm not saying, and what I don't say is like, I'm going to come out of this smelling like roses. I'm going to look so pretty, I'll be so rich. I'm going to say, I'm going to come out of the other side of this. I might be bloody
Yeah,
and burned and torn up and chewed up and spit out, but I'm going to be standing on the other side of this
yeah.
one way or another. You're not going to stop me. Nobody's going to stop me. The only body that
Well,
can stop me is myself, and I'm not going to let that happen. Yeah.
I love that. I love it because it just it takes yourself away as a barrier to the opportunities that you're chasing.
Mhm.
And I
And
love
you make
that.
an agreement already, right? So when that,
Yep.
because those times come, I don't know anybody's ever been on a long run or a long walk. It's not that you never think you're gonna give up, right? It's just that
Hmm.
recognizing those times are gonna come where that little voice is gonna say, "Ah, time to quit," and you're gonna have to say, "Ah, I knew you were gonna come. I knew you were gonna show up. Not
Yep.
today, not right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
quit,
right.
not right now." Yeah.
Yep. And not resisting. There's a saying that which you resist persists.
Hmm.
Welcoming that in and going, welcome, but no.
Yeah.
Thanks for visiting, but not today. Yep,
Yep.
yep. Because I
I've learned
think,
that.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I've learned that I've started I've meditated on and off for meditation on and off for 10, 15 years.
Hmm.
But recently I've been pretty much daily, at least 20 minutes. And
Yeah.
people, I guess people get the impression of, the monks in the yellow robes in the lotus position, and you could
Mm,
break a 2x4 in the back of their head, they don't move a muscle.
yeah.
That'd be great. And then maybe you'll get there, but I'm not even
Yeah.
close. But the one thing that I do get the most out of is what you just said is like I'm laying there and it's not that you're not having thoughts. It's just when they come in, you're just like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. Goodbye.
Hmm.
Nice
Yeah.
to you just acknowledge them and let them go.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and it's interesting. Just as you're talking about, if somebody really is feeling something calling to them there's an entire discussion on attachments. And actually, I'll say this, actually, Dr. Matt, you're the one that referred to me the book, The Surrender Experiment, right?
Mhm.
Surrender.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Untethered Soul is the first one I think I referred to, but the Transit Experiment is another. That's a great book. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, The Untethered Soul. That was the one. That was correct. You're right. Yeah. So a great book for somebody to start understanding their attachments um, to what's going on in the world and in their mind. And it is
Michael,
that stuff that you said that holds us back. Yeah. Yeah.
Michael Singer is the author. I
They
didn't
say,
mean.
hey, look at that. God, you're just a walking library. But yeah, I mean, I think us having that ability to to see that shows up and to let it pass and to say, yep, not today, and just that commitment. I believe the guy's name is Goggins, but he's kind of like
David Goggins.
ultra fit, right? Right. And he
Yep.
was saying the same thing. He said that, the difference between you being able to do 3 miles and 9 miles isn't physically. And it's
Yeah.
just this and I will say this. I am not built for running. The good
Mhm.
Lord had other plans with my stature. But one thing that when I was in high school with wrestling, we had to do this running. And I remember one time in the winter, we had to run, and I think it was 5 miles. I could be wrong, it could be 3 miles. It could have been a mile. Either way, I remember looking at the coach going, as a heavyweight,
Mhm.
I don't think you quite get me, brother. I don't do the running. And he said, you're fine. Just go. He said, just don't give up. Just keep going, and I'll be with you. And I surrendered at that point and said, okay, I'm going to start jogging and I'm going to see what happens. And I kept going, and at the end of, you just kind of all of a sudden you're going, and all of a sudden the end is near. And I mean, I ran whatever that distance was, and I would have bet $1 million before. I'm going, not a chance. I will break a leg. I will actually literally die of a heart attack before I ever get that far. And so allowing yourself that beautiful opportunity to push through your mental limitations. So very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Very
we've
cool.
all had, and I know now a run like that would be nothing for you nowadays, but we've all had that where it's just like, you struggle, struggle, struggle. Then one day you're distracted or you're thinking about a problem or something that you love, and you realize, yeah, that time has gone by like nothing and you're
Yeah.
fine. I heard
Yeah.
a really great actual story, but I can't remember the people's names, but it was a guy, he was a business coach as well. This is 15 years ago. Um, but he worked out with these really strong, man, he was recovering from cancer actually. And he'd do his weight and they take his weight off and put their bigger weights on. And so he was lifting quite a bit less than them.
Yeah.
But anyway, one day somebody asked him a question that was really engaging to him, et cetera. And it was kind of absentmindedly, he was answering it, very passionate about the answer, and kind of absentmindedly slipped underneath one of their weights, which was, 2, 3 times what he'd been lifting and thought he could lift, and was continued to answer, put up the bar like 3, 4 times. And then, just got out and was chatting with them, and they all were like wide eyes, like, what's going on? They're like, look what you just did. And he didn't realize
Oh, yep.
then, so still that I can't do it was in his head. So he tried to do it again afterwards, couldn't. But it's just really funny
That's,
what,
yep.
what you're capable of when you get your head out of the way.
Yeah. And what a cool thing to see it so viscerally right in front of you when somebody does that, right? Could you imagine doing that and going, that's my head. That,
Mhm.
like, to
Yep.
know it, that, yeah, wow, what a lesson.
Yep. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Matt, well, I just want to thank you so much for your time today, your insight, your servingness, and just your pure genius. We really appreciate it.
Very kind of you to say, Brad. Thanks for doing this, and hopefully we get a lot of listeners to the Greatness Garage because there's a lot of greatness coming out of it.
Yeah, and
Thank
everybody go check out Vivora Life, and they're doing some great things. Is there another website to check you out? Do you
For
have a
life, yeah.
Dr.
And then if you're in the chiropractic industry, look out for it's called Hone It, like honing an axe or honing a knife,
Very
staff training
cool.
software, which is going to make some really cool changes. And the people that your patients see the most are going to be the best trained people in your office.
Ah, I love it, love it. All right, Greatness Garagers. Thank you for another great time, and we will see you again next episode. Remember, action is what makes this information all worth it. If you need help figuring out what that action is, go to callwithbrad.com and we'll get some clarity and help you figure out what that should be.